girl from Ipanema. Nothing says Rio de Janeiro quite like it. Musical legends from Frank Sinatra to Amy Winehouse cut their own versions of the most famous piece of bossa nova ever written. And when it was first a hit back in 1964, those 3 sublime minutes crystallized a vision of Brazil in the eyes of the rest of the world that endures to this day.
But each day when she walks to the sea, she looks straight ahead, not at he.
So I've come here to Rio to explore the culture and the people behind the hit song. It's a journey into a most extraordinary period in Brazil's history when utopian modernism, African rhythms and romantic poetry were channeled by a generation of Rio natives, or cariocas, to create bossa nova, Brazil's first and last truly international art form.
Tall and tan and young and lovely, the girl from Ipanema goes walking, and when she passes, each one she passes goes, ah.
Bossa Nova is the most beautiful music ever because it's sophisticated and also very simple.
We were fighting for a cause. We had this sensation. We were fighting for our cause was to devote, to promote this wonderful music that will save Brazil.
Bossa's a music defined by its sophistication, but sadly now more often heard in a lift than on the radio. But I've always loved bossa. My father was born here in Rio, so I grew up listening to it, and I've travelled here to Brazil many times to see and hear it for myself. There is so much more to it than its muzak stereotype, and it means so much to Brazilians of all ages. So join me as I retrace the steps of the girl from Ipanema to a golden age of Brazilian music and the sun, sea and samba that started it all.
And when she passes, she smiles, but she doesn't see. She just doesn't see.
Any story about Brazilian music has to start with samba. In fact, here in Brazil they say that music is samba and samba is God. It's the music that tells the story of the Brazilian people, and it also provides the pulsing soundtrack to Rio's famous carnival parades.
Samba is where the soul of Brazil is, you know. It's the way Brazil breathes, it's the way Brazil walks, it's the heartbeat of Brazil.
Samba is as old as Brazil itself. Based on rhythms brought to the continent by West African slaves in the 16th century, it took hold as a truly Brazilian rhythm in the 1930s under the nationalist dictator President Getulio Vargas. He used the carnival parades to promote his policy of racial democracy, unifying the diverse population through song and dance. And carnival still has that effect today. So samba means carnival, it means party. Tell us how people behave when they hear a samba.
As pessoas pulam, dançam, né? Tiram o pé do chão de uma maneira muito descontrolada.
Bossa Nova feels very calm compared to samba, but is there some link?
Bossa Nova é samba, é um tipo de samba, é uma ramificação da grande árvore do samba.
You can see why the Brazilians love samba. I mean, what's not to like? But all this, the drums and the noise and the singing and all the general madness, is a million miles away from the soft, sophisticated tones of Bossa Nova. They may have come from the same place, but Bossa Nova was a child of its time, and that time was the 1950s.
Yes, it's the most famous beach in the world, Copacabana Beach in Rio de Janeiro, the city where the tango and the samba and the prettiest girls in the world come from.
Bossa Nova captured the mood of a special moment in Brazil's history. The demise of President Vargas in 1954 called an end to 25 years of strict state control and gave way to a democratic, outward-looking Brazil with its sights set on becoming a modern first world nation.
It was beautiful. It was an emerging time for art, for film, for many things. It was like a promise of a new country, new life.
Brazil's president-elect, Senor Juscelino Kubitschek, declares putting Brazil on the map will be the biggest operation of his career.
We had this great president, this Kubitschek. JK was his nickname.
We would call the president Bossa Nova. He was the name, yeah, because he was so always smiling, blah, blah, blah. He loves music.
People loved him. He was a Democrat. He started to build cars and industries. He was a visionary. We built a new capital in 4 years, and they did it.
After centuries of colonial rule and hardline dictatorships, Kubitschek's promise of 50 years development in 5, epitomised by the audacity of the brand new capital, Brasilia, inspired hope for a new start for Brazil. And as if life couldn't get any better, the national football team were on top of the world.
1958, miraculously, Brazil won the World Cup in Sweden. And with a generation, with Pelé, Garrincha, the greatest football players, they marveled the world with. They were not only playing football, they were artists, they were dancers, they were magicians. And that in Brazil had a strong effect on the Brazilian soul. We're the best. And the Bossa Nova comes as the perfect soundtrack of this period on Brazilian life, that we were happy.
The soundtrack to this golden era would be written by a generation of middle-class kids coming of age in the beachfront apartment blocks of Copacabana and Ipanema. Guitar-mad Carlos Lyra and Roberto Menescal, jobbing nightclub pianist Tom Jobim, keen young singer Nara Leão, and awkward troubadour Joyce Gilberto enjoyed a charmed lifestyle and bonded over their desire for a modern Brazilian sound to call their own.
Dia de luz, festa de sol, barquinho a deslizar no macio azul do mar. Tudo é verão, amor se faz, barquinho pelo mar que desliza sem parar. Sem intenção, nossa canção vai saindo desse mar e o sol. Beijo o barco e luz, dias tão azuis. A gente morava na Zona Sul, perto da praia, e a praia de manhã, você de tarde jogava futebol na praia e de noite você tocava violão na praia, né? E então a praia era o nosso clube. E a música que se tocava no Brasil era samba-canção. Era muito pesado, sabe? Ninguém me ama, ninguém me quer.
Ouça, vá viver sua vida contra o bem.
The music was that kind of thing. Waiter, bring me another glass, because that woman just found herself a lover, and I'm here suffering for this sentiment. You know, that all the lyrics were about, you know, about adultery. You know, it was horrible.
Running a mile from their parents' sorrowful samba canção, Rio's hip teens fell in love with American cool jazz.
The West Coast jazz, I loved it. Stan Getz, Jerry Mulligan, Shorty Rogers, Barney Castle. Boy, me and Roberto Menescal used to listen to Barney Castle day and night. We were very impressed by that.
Nós éramos muito jovens, 17, 18 anos de idade, né? E nós então começamos a fazer uma música com palavras muito jovens, mas a gente fazia uma música para a nossa juventude, né?
The group would meet in the family home of young singer Nara Leão. This intimate environment set the tone for the style of music they played.
Se alguém perguntar por mim, diz que fui por aí, levando violão debaixo do braço.
E então não tínhamos muitos lugares, não éramos muito convidados para ir tocar, mas a gente se reunia muito, principalmente na casa de Nara Leão. E os pais delas eram pessoas muito liberais, porque tinha um apartamento em frente à Copacabana, 15 metros de janela, de vidro, né? E se tornou uma pessoa muito importante. Ela sabia escolher o repertório, ela sabia a maneira de cantar. E Nara foi se tornando o que a gente chamava... Ela era protegida do pessoal da Bossa Nova.
Tenho muitos amigos, eu sou popular, tenho a madrugada.
Everybody barefoot, drinking whiskey and smoking a lot, and everybody, the guitar will circulate and everyone will show his new songs.
I would be here, Jobim there, Menescal there, Vinicius, and or a piano here, a guitar, and then I have to play to you my new song. It was difficult because I have to impress it. To go inside that group, you have to be good, or they would think that you were very good. But once you are there, everybody would help each other.
It soon became an ambitious songwriters' circle, and in 1958 came the first song to be dubbed Bossa Nova, the new beat. It would also unite on record the future team behind the girl from Ipanema.
Chega de saudade, a realidade é que sem ela não há paz, não há beleza, é só.
The only place to come in Rio to get more info on this seminal song is Toca de Vinicius, the record shop come library come Bossa Nova shrine run by Senor Carlos Alberto Afonso.
The first document of music, of course, one phonographic document of Bossa Nova history, one recording from July 1058. The first moment with the Bossa Nova synthesis, one recording with João Gilberto, the god, number one, playing and singing, and the orchestra of the second god of Bossa Nova, Antonio Carlos Jobim, or Tom Jobim.
A primeira parte dessa música, vai minha tristeza, ele diz, é muito samba, a gente chamava samba choro, sabe? É um samba mais lento, assim. E a segunda parte já é Bossa Nova. Mas se ela voltar, que coisa linda, né? É mais aberto, assim.
Mas se ela voltar, que coisa linda, que coisa louca.
When I heard this song, it was something happened in my heart, and I said, what is this? Because it was so unusual, the way he sings, the beat, and the music, everything, you know.
I can remember exactly when I heard João Gilberto. I was in a party and in Leblon, and I was dating a very beautiful girl. I remember that I had said, my God, what is that? Even if I had influence of many other kinds of music, when Bossa Nova I heard, I said, my God, I was under the impact.
Something of an outsider, João Gilberto was from the northern state of Bahia and was steeped in that region's African samba rhythms. This deep knowledge was always welcome at the jam sessions in Rio, even if João himself was a bit of a loner. But what really marked out the man who would first perform The Girl from Ipanema was his new twist on the samba rhythm, which became known as the bossa beat.
He listened to the samba, played by the samba schools, 500 percussionists walking in procession and playing that groove. Really kind of explosive sound, irresistible sound. He just heard that and just took the essential elements of it and created this groove that he could play with his right hand on the guitar. And that's, that was genius.
João Gilberto used to play like that, and used to play with the 5 fingers in a strange way, this way. And he could swing with that way. I was amazed the way he could play. You know?
So did you and Roberto Menescal then try and sort of imitate that way?
Yeah, we all tried to copy that, because that was the way of playing bossa nova.
Doralice, eu bem que lhe disse, amar é tolice, é bobagem, é ilusão. Eu prefiro viver tão sozinho ao som do lamento do meu violão. Doralice, eu bem que lhe
Gilberto's playing style was a revelation, but he also brought an attention to detail bordering on the obsessive.
For him, it has to be that perfection. Like Flaubert, you know, he would roll on the floor in search of the right word. The same thing with João Gilberto, and the same thing for anybody who considers himself bossa nova. He has to have the right thing, the right last touch, because otherwise you don't have art.
Doralice, eu bem que lhe disse, amar é tolice, é bobagem, é ilusão.
Samba is the rhythm. Bossa nova is the way to play this song. Sweet, kind, intimist voice, minimalist behavior of the instruments. I call the bossa nova with one name, Mona Lisa. Bossa nova. Yeah, same artistic perspective of Renaissance art, looking for all time the formal perfection through the simple, just the necessary, no more.
É só eu sei quanto amor eu guardei.
Bossa nova is very romantic, always. But the romance was always was very light, very cool, never aggressive, like singing in the ears of a woman, never screaming.
É você que é feito de azul, me deixa morar nesse azul, me deixa encontrar minha paz. Você que é bonito demais, se ao menos pudesse saber. It's almost like meditation, you know. You get inside. You know, it's not so extrovert. It's coming in. It's introvert. You know, it's like with yourself. É você que é feito de azul, me deixa morar nesse azul, me deixa encontrar minha paz. Você que é bonito demais, se ao menos.
The art of bossa nova relied as much upon its sophisticated harmonies and catchy melodies as it did the intimate performance style. And the master composer and linchpin of the early scene was Antonio Carlos or Tom Jobim. I'm travelling 3 hours north of Rio into the mountains to visit the Jobim family's rustic country retreat. It's out here in the wilderness that Jobim wrote some of his best-known songs. So this is it, your grandfather's favourite place?
Favorite place in the world.
So how often would he come up here?
Oh, he would stay months at a time, so writing songs every morning.
So what did he love about this place? Why did he always want to come up?
Oh, the birds, you know. He knew all the birds by the scientific name, you know, and the melodies, which ones were doing, and writing the songs together. And also from here, he would use the whistle of the hunters and like call the female or the male from the outside of the river.
So this is amazing.
Yeah, the palm trees.
Very
the monkeys jump from tree to tree.
My music comes from this environment here, you know, the rain, the sun, the trees, the birds, the mountains, the rocks. Beautiful.
He loved life. And those guys, they were all like that. They were bohemian, you know. They enjoyed life, they enjoyed beauty. They were into beauty.
So this is the studio?
Oh, this is the studio,
where
yeah.
it all happened?
Yes, his piano, upright piano would be here with a bust of Chopin and some pictures of family there. And he would study here in the morning, looking at the forest there and write all the songs.
He played at night like a pianist in bars. And that was for a while. It was not easy, not an easy living. He wanted to be a classical pianist. So he studied Rachmaninoff, he loved Stravinsky, Chopin a lot, and began writing arrangements.
Jobim, he innovated in harmonic language, what is possible. He was a poet of harmony by putting chords or sounds together that nobody thought would sound beautiful together, and he knew how to do that. He would also link them together with these melodies that were out of heaven. He created a new grammar or vocabulary of harmony, something that inspires musicians, especially jazz musicians, all over the world.
By the end of the 1950s, a whole new scene was emerging here in the beachfront South Zone area of Rio. As the major players brought Bossa out of their apartments and into the world, their new sound, their new way of playing, found a home in a loose network of small clubs and bars, most famously here in Bottle Alley.
Pra se amar, só lugar, Copacabana.
The development of Bossa Nova, the promotion of it, was done in these small nightclubs that can hold 40, 50 people, very tiny tables, but you could listen to Tom Jobim, to João Gilberto. They could almost avoid amplification. That was beautiful that time.
So Sergio, when Bottles Bar was first opened in the 1950s and 60s, it was the place to come, wasn't it?
Aqui vários grupos de Bossa Nova se uniram e fizeram as suas formações aqui no Beco das Garrafas. Vinha muita gente aqui. Eram os músicos antigos e vinham os músicos novos. Agora existia um cassino aqui no Copacabana Palace do lado. Então nós podemos citar Edith Piaf, por exemplo, quando fazia show no Copacabana Palace, terminava, ela vinha para cá. Ella Fitzgerald, Bill Horn, todas essas pessoas que vinham ao Rio de Janeiro, que tinham importância, vinham ao Beco das Garrafas conhecer o melhor da nossa música.
So the stars of stage and screen were now enjoying the new beat alongside the cafe crowd in Rio, and now they could also take home bossa nova on vinyl as the music business rushed to release albums by all the original gang. Even the record covers had their own new aesthetic, in keeping with the cool minimalism of the movement. And in spring 1961, a group of respected American jazz musicians touched down in Brazil as part of a state-sponsored goodwill tour. And their interest in the new scene ran deeper than just a good night out.
All the Bossa boys were listening to American jazz, but what they didn't realize was that the big names in American jazz were listening to them too, and they loved what they were hearing. Stars like Charlie Byrd and Jerry Mulligan flew down here to Rio to visit and to play, and the musical friendships that were born then would catapult bossa nova onto the world stage. Cliff, when we talk about the classic moment when bossa nova caught the attention of the jazz musicians up in the States, and what did they like about it? What was it about bossa nova that made them sit up?
I think there are musical elements that are very common to both languages. The first one is melody, because when you put it in relation to the harmony, they become really complex notes. Chords that a jazz player will go, yes, that's what I need. You know, it's juicy.
They identified with it because it has very much of what they gave to us, especially the harmony. The harmony, it's all from the American jazz.
Guitarist Charlie Byrd wasted no time in recording his own versions of the bossa nova he'd heard in Rio, teaming up with the legendary saxophonist Stan Getz on the album Jazz Samba. Released in April '62, it sold 500,000 copies in 18 months and became the only jazz album ever to hit #1 on the Billboard pop chart. And the Tom Jobim tune Desafinado led the charge in the hit parade.
Here you have a mystery. The public really went for this. It's jazz, but I guess I'll use the word accessible. The melody is, even though it's complex, it's still singable, which is sort of amazing. It's not that easy. It's not do, re, mi. That may have been the reason that, wow, here's an audience who was looking for something like that. And interestingly enough, it wasn't vocal at the time. Desafinado was an instrumental record who hit way up in the top of the pop charts. That's amazing in the music business.
Spying an opportunity after Desafinado's success, Braziliphile record exec Sidney Fry hatched a plan to introduce bossa's originators to the US market.
In music, if you want to start a movement, you hire a hall, Carnegie Hall, to spread the word and the sound.
One of the record executives had this idea to do a concert at Carnegie Hall, really presenting Brazilian musicians. That was their real entryway into what becomes an international market.
The importance of this opportunity was almost lost on the more laid-back members of the scene back in Rio.
Eu não sabia nem o que era o Carnegie Hall, não conhecia, nunca tinha ouvido falar. E uma pessoa telefonou, uma pessoa aqui, oficial, me convidando. Vai ter um show. Eu digo, não posso porque eu tenho uma pescaria em Cabo Frio, né? E aí o Tom Jobim me telefonou e falou, ouvi falar que você não vai ao Carnegie Hall porque tem uma pescaria em Cabo Frio. É importante, vai toda a música, nossa, bossa nova e tal. E eu fui porque todo mundo ia, porque o Tom me convidou, ele disse que era importante, né?
never been to the States before, and I was amazed, you know, in the autumn in New York, you know, it's a beautiful season.
Eu fui o primeiro a passar na polícia de passaporte, né? Quando eu olhei assim, tinham 7 músicos de jazz, assim, a 5 metros. Eu parei e falei, aí voltei para a turma. Rapaz, olha a sorte nossa de estar chegando no aeroporto, né? E os músicos de jazz também estavam ali, talvez iam viajar, né? Aí a pessoa que estava recebendo falou assim, não, eles vieram receber vocês. A gente? Eles sabem quem a gente é? Claro que sabe, né?
We went to the Carnegie Hall and there was, I can't remember, lines of people. It was crowded. The Carnegie Hall was crowded and it was full of important musicians in the audience. Then we realized that something important was happening.
This was the official send-off for Bossa Nova, but the movement was already on its way, and it's been going all the stronger since. In the record shops, racks full of Bossa Nova that swings like Castro Nevis and some that's sweet and lyrical. In either form, Bossa Nova is in.
Blame it on the Bossa Nova with its magic spell.
Some people just got on the bandwagon, didn't they?
Yes. The Bossa Nova dance craze, for instance, which that
what was
never
that?
existed. I have no idea. But you had to have a dance because Latin music was all about dancing. Now, samba is a dance. Bossa Nova, as far as I know, never was.
Now, in the Bossa Nova, the basic step is taken to the side with a little twist motion.
Blame it on the Bossa Nova with its magic spell.
Bossa Nova became so popular, advertising just love it. Everything was Bossa Nova. This is, it's a new building, buy the new building and the apartment, the Bossa Nova apartment. And it says, you buy the new suit, Bossa Nova suit.
Bossa Nova icebox, Bossa Nova lawyers, you know, and many things. And now I heard here in the radio, Bossa Nova hair con, Bossa Nova shoes. No, this is not very good for the music.
Madison Avenue's version of bossa was but the latest fad aimed squarely at middle-class America and its preconceptions about life south of the border.
Brazil represents for the United States a utopian other. So Rio, the most beautiful city in the world. Brazilian culture, sensual, uninhibited. Notions of beauty are paramount.
And when Jobim, Gilberto and Stan Getz got it together in a New York recording studio in the spring of 1963, the song Jobim pulled from his suitcase brought this fantasy to life in the form of the girl from Ipanema.
Olha que coisa mais linda, mais cheia de graça, ela menina que vem que passa, doce balanço caminho do mar.
He and his writing partner Vinicius de Moraes had composed the song at least a year earlier on a typically relaxed day by the beach.
Vinicius de Moraes, you know, he wrote the lyrics and I wrote the music. We used to drink some draft, you know, and watch the girls going to the sea, you know, to the beach. Nobody knew who she was, but she was so beautiful that everybody guessed.
Se ela soubesse que quando ela passa.
The beautiful girl immortalized in the song had a name, Helo Pinero. And 50 years on, she's still turning heads on her way to the beach.
The two men, Tom Jobim and Vinicius de Moraes, they are sitting in the bar, the snack bar, and I was walking to the beach, and one told to him, "Oh, I love the girl that all the time she passes here. And when I pass, I am going to make a song for this girl. The girl from Ipanema comes, changed my life because to make me famous."
Pinheiro became a symbol of the quintessential Rio beach girl, but also represented something deeper for lyricist Vinicius de Moraes, a spiritual godfather to the bossa generation.
He was a great friend, was a great man, very cultured, very warm, and women loved him. And believe me, he was short, bald. Women just felt at his feet, and it was incredible.
He was a gentleman, and he was raised to be like that, to believe that a woman should be put in a, in a higher ground, to be adored and admired and made for love and forgiveness. He wrote that, actually.
Yes, he probably needed quite a lot of forgiveness during his life, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely. But how could you not forgive him? He was adorable.
A true bohemian, by the time the bard of Bossa began writing songs, he'd already led a colourful life as a diplomat and man of letters.
He was a very important romantic poet, one of the most important poets in Brazil. And then he became a lyricist, and he was one of the greatest lyricists in Bossa Nova.
He was the first Brazilian to have a scholarship granted by Oxford University, and he was very fond of Shakespearean poetry. The best Vinicius moments, you have things like "Que coisa mais bonita você," what a beautiful thing you are. So simple things as Shakespeare reached in Romeo and Juliet or Antonio and Cleopatra. So very simple things, but very beautiful things.
Vinicius ensured the words in Bossa Nova were taken as seriously as the music, and the themes of love, the smile, and the flower became something of a manifesto for the genre. However, the English-speaking audience were none the wiser. That is, until the recording of The Girl from Ipanema. Back in New York, crack lyricist Norman Gimbel had been enlisted to translate the Portuguese lyrics into English. Best known for his subsequent hits Killing Me Softly and the Happy Days theme tune, his interpretation of Garota de Ipanema cut to the chase.
First Portuguese lyric, first couple lines are "Olha que coisa mais linda e cheia de graça," which literally is, look at this beautiful thing full of grace. That's what it is literally. In English, it's tall and tan and young and lovely, the girl from Ipanema. So it's very different.
Antonio Carlos Jobim didn't like the translation. He was completely furious with the words they put in English, describing physically the girl and not describing the impression of something full of grace that walks by. When you say full of grace, you're referring to Our Lady of Mercy, and you need a woman to be your savior. But when you say tall and thin and young, you're talking about a beauty contest. It's so vulgar.
All objections aside, it was decided that at least one verse in English would be a good idea after João Gilberto had kicked off the song in Portuguese. Step forward, João's wife, Astrud Gilberto.
Tall and tan and young and lovely, the girl from Ipanema goes walking, and when she passes, each one she passes goes.
Astrud, who had, as far as I know, didn't really have a career here at that point. She was the only one who could speak English, but she sings it in this carioca style, which is intimate and simple, no vibrato. Articulation is gorgeous. She's swinging in her way.
But each day when she walks to the sea, she looks straight ahead, not at him.
It was so lovely. She was a girl from Ipanema singing, because she was the way, so nothing, very natural singing.
That when she passes, each one she passes goes.
Seduced by Astrud's voice, producer Creed Taylor made a decisive call when it came to mastering the single.
The producer heard her singing, and then they took João Gilberto out, and they put only Astrud Gilberto singing.
Oh, but he watched her so sadly. How can we tell her he loves her?
And with that, what started as a track on a Brazilian jazz album, sung in Portuguese by a man, became a pop single performed by a woman in English, but with an exotic accent.
She looks straight ahead, not at him. Tall and tan and young and lovely.
This transformed the girl from Ipanema's global appeal.
That accented voice is something that becomes marketable for the record company. We have to take into account not just the sonic quality of her voice, but all that Brazil represents.
There is a lot of the foreign look into Brazil that you get through that version, you know. Tall and tan and young and lovely. The exotic. It just is an irresistible sort of image, isn't it? And it allows everyone abroad to project, especially men, their fantasies about, you know, this woman, this Brazilian woman.
Tall and tan and young and lovely, the girl from Ipanema goes walking, and when she passes he smiles, but she doesn't see, she just doesn't see.
The song was an international smash hit, rising to the top 5 in the Billboard Hot 100 and #1 on the Easy Listening chart in the States. It broke the top 30 in the UK and went on to win the Grammy Award for Record of the Year.
What was your father's reaction to his song becoming the Record of the Year and getting a Grammy for being the Record of the Year?
It was a big surprise because it was a jazz record. And never a jazz record had sold so much.
It's accessible, it swings, and then it's in English. That was a genius move. The public likes it, the musicians like it.
It's the perfect record.
It's the perfect record.
I think it's a very nice song. I think it's a very well written song, beautiful melody and incredible lyrics. It's like a bossa nova hymn all over the world.
The Girl from Ipanema has been recorded over 500 times by some of the biggest names in music.
Tall and tan and young and lovely.
The girl from Ipanema goes walking. When he passes each girl, he passes and goes, ah. When she passes each one, she passes, goes, yabba-diddy-dow.
It's believed to be the second most recorded popular song of the 20th century, second only to the Beatles' Yesterday. And the Beatles themselves were honoured at the same Grammy Awards in 1965 for Best New Artist. Just as the Girl from Ipanema broke bossa nova into the mainstream, the Brits arrived on American turf with their own new beat, rendering all that came before yesterday's music. However, this changing of the guard on the front line of pop was trivial compared to the real invasion going on back home in Rio.
It was an impact for us. Everything has changed. Freedom of the press, it was over.
The bossa nova president Kubitschek's successors had begun to lean radically towards communist regimes. On April 1st, 1964, a US-backed military coup brutally called time on Brazil's experiment with democracy.
When the military came in '64 and took power, nobody knew that it was going to become so bloody and dangerous. There were people being taken to prison, being tortured, artists being censored. Suddenly, you know, we lived under a very, very oppressive dictatorship.
Everybody was afraid to say anything even here because maybe some neighbor, you know, this kind of crazy things that for real, for Brazil, it was crazy.
We were persecuted. There were announcements on the radios that say, don't ever play Carlos Lyra, Antonio Carlos Jobim, and they got him in, they put him in the blacklist.
Me explica, me ensina, me diz o que é feminina, não é no cabelo, no dengo, no olhar, é ser menina por todo lugar. Então me ilumina, me diz como...
Bossa Nova's fixation on romantic themes and its air of refinement, which so fitted the optimism of the Kubitschek era, was now at odds with the mood of the nation.
Oh mãe, me explica, me ensina, me diz o que é feminina, não é no cabelo, no dengo, no olhar, é ser menina por todo lugar. The young generations, like my own, a lot of people thought that Bossa Nova was not reflecting anymore the situation of the country because it was too light and the situation was too heavy. So all of a sudden, that was old news.
Some people carried on writing, you know, love songs and ignoring everything else, as always, you know, of course. But some people thought, no, we can't. We have to try and do what we can using music, perhaps. Let's try.
There was a big split on Bossa Nova from that time on. Menescal stayed on this Bossa Nova. Light, cool jazz, beaches, little boats, love in the afternoon.
Mas nós continuamos Copacabana, céu, mar, as coisas bonitas, né? A gente achava que nossa música tinha essa missão de você tornar as coisas alegres. A nossa Bossa Nova era para dar alegria, dar esperança. E eu não quis participar muito da coisa política.
Mas plantar para dividir.
But for others, it was time to take a stand. And the split deepened in the Bossa generation when Nada Leão turned her back on her old crowd by the beach.
Quando fui fazer meu primeiro disco, eu rompi com a Bossa Nova. Porque foi uma fase, para mim, pessoalmente, que eu descobri um outro lado da vida e do mundo, que não era só o sorriso, a flor e o amor. E eu fiquei muito impressionada com coisas que eu não sabia e que eu descobri naquele momento. Eu descobri que havia fome, eu descobri que havia morro, eu descobri que havia pessoas pobres, porque eu nunca tinha me dado conta. Porque naquela época eu tinha 15 anos.
She was very outspoken about Bossa Nova and how it was dead and useless and
very much. They called her the Bossa Nova muse. But being the clever woman that she was, she wouldn't stand in that role forever, you know. She was a very political head.
Ela se afastou e começou a achar no samba, pessoal, principalmente do morro. E fez um disco muito importante, onde ela gravou esses autores, e passou a ter uma vida própria, né? Eu senti muito, eu fiquei muito triste desse afastamento.
Pode me prender, pode me bater, e eu não mudo de opinião.
They started to do music and lyrics about peasants, oppressed people, and all the lyrics should be aggressive, more related to our origins. We should do music for the people.
Nada Leão was not alone in her opinion. And as the counterculture kicked in hard at the end of the decade, Tropicalia blasted away the quiet minimalism of bossa with a heady mix of rock and roll and psychedelia.
The Bossa Nova was nothing anymore, was completely despicable, was corny, was cheesy, was something very old. And the great Bossa Nova stars, Jobim, João Gilberto, they moved to the US.
Insulated from the turbulent times back home, Bossa Nova in the US had matured like a fine wine into a grown-up music for the middle classes enjoying their creature comforts in the suburbs.
The instrument, guitar. The beat, Bossa Nova. The artist,
Antonio Carlos Jobim.
For Jobim, that was the key to the world. For Frank Sinatra to come along and say, stop everything, it's Bossa Nova, is Jobim, that's like God coming down and say, this I'm going to put my signature on. That's a big deal.
Tom Jobim settled into his new position alongside Old Blue Eyes with consummate ease. The album they recorded together in 1967 is widely regarded as one of Sinatra's finest and completed Bossa Nova's induction to the great American songbook. And of course, in this national TV special, the girl from Ipanema was the jewel of the set list.
Tall and tan and young and lovely, the girl from Ipanema goes walking, and when she passes, each one she passes goes, ah. Moça do corpo dourado, do sol de Ipanema, o seu balançado é mais que poema.
I love that beautiful performance. They did live, playing there in front with the suits and smoking the cigarette. Sinatra is smoking and singing. Can you believe this? I can't. And my grandfather is playing the guitar because he was basically a piano player, but he learned the guitar. And Sinatra wanted to have on the album the guitar because it looked more Latin love, so he asked for. So he had to study a little more, but whatever Sinatra asks you to do, you have to do it.
But each day when she walks to the sea, she looks straight ahead, not at me.
Wow, can't believe it. I still can't believe it.
This is, in a sense, even more of an arrival into world musical culture than getting invited to perform at Carnegie Hall. This is the real arrival for Jobim. This is the mark that he is a major composer.
I think he was valued in America. I don't think the Bossa Nova people are valued enough in Brazil. They will talk about Bossa Nova even in a dismissive way, like, oh, you know, that's boring, that's over.
They sold out to Americans. That was the reaction in Brazil. Very Brazilian too. Tom Jobim has the phrase, in Brazil, success is a personal offense. He was so criticized in Brazil, this poor man, this genius. Few Brazilians have made so much for this country than Jobim.
In just a few years, Bossa Nova had gone mainstream, growing up from an intimate local beat into an internationally renowned repertoire of popular standards.
I've been in Romania and Russia and so far away places, and always the same. It's always full of people, you know, sold out. In Japan, they are crazy about Bossa Nova. Água de beber, camarada. Água de beber, água de beber, camarada.
You go anywhere in the world and you can hear Bossa Nova in major concert halls. I've seen João Gilberto in Carnegie Hall. You know, it's the same repertoire being performed in more or less the same way that it has been for the past 50 years. In this sense, Bossa Nova can be deemed a classical music.
Bossa Nova to me is art, you know, I separate it, I make a distinction there. The music that's big in Brazil nowadays is the entertainment music. It's music done for people to dance to go in, to enjoy carnival. You know, it's the big masses sort of music. I love entertainment, but if I want to kind of be quiet and be taken somewhere else, I need the right music for it, and it's not going to be the entertainment music. It's art. I want to go somewhere. It takes me somewhere.
Rua Nascimento Silva 107, você ensinando pra Elisete as canções de canção.
Wherever you are in the world, the place Bossa Nova will always transport you to is Rio, the birthplace, where for many years this precious music was all but forgotten. But slowly Brazil has begun to value its greatest cultural export and celebrate Bossa's founding fathers.
Nossa famosa garota nem sabia a que ponto a cidade turvaria esse rio de amor que se perdeu. Mesmo a tristeza da gente era mais bela e além de se via da janela.
These heroes of Bossa Nova became part of our landscape nowadays in Rio. Vinicius de Moraes is a street in Ipanema, the neighborhood he celebrated in his wonderful song, and Tom Jobim is our main airport. Now we have both as part of our sentimental and geographical landscape.
And even away from the beachfront bars and tourist attractions, the irrepressible sound of the girl from Ipanema can still be heard.
Tall and tan and young and lovely, the girl from Ipanema goes walking, and when she passes the sky, she passes goes.
I've been here in Rio for a week, and I've seen for myself the magic that inspired Bossa Nova. Of course, we can't compare today with the golden age of the late 1950s and early 60s, when life here in Rio was good and the whole world fell in love with that idyllic image of Brazil as painted by the song The Girl from Ipanema.
But each day when she walks to the sea, she looks straight ahead, not at me.
You know what? That's okay, because that idyllic image still exists. You can go down to the beach any day of the week and see your very own girl from Ipanema making her way to the white sand and the clear blue sea. And the music lives on. Places like this, the maze, high up in the hills above the beach. And it lives on in the hearts of the people here, because Bossa Nova is the soundtrack to that ideal version of Brazil.
Se ela soubesse que quando ela passa, o mundo seria enche de graça e fica mais lindo.